And now, a man who really needs no introduction, our dinner chair, Marvin Girouard. But first, Marvin has great understanding and appreciation of our work and has invested himself in our community, both personally and professionally. As a former chairman and CEO of Pier 1 Imports, he forged strong philanthropic partnership to lead Pier 1 in contributing more than $30 million to worthy causes locally and nationally and worldwide. But before I ask Marvin to come to the podium, I have a personal story to share with you, just a quick one. When we decided to come to Fort Worth in 2003 from New York, it was a homecoming for my wife, Ashley, as she grew up here. In preparing for the big move, we looked at dozens and dozens of homes and neighborhoods, and finally we found the perfect one. We also discovered very quickly that it was very close to the home of Ashley's dear friend, Jamie, who is Marvin Girouard's daughter. So close, in fact, that we would share a tall wooden fence that separated our backyards. That's pretty close. Well, we bought our house and we moved in. Our family was welcomed so warmly by Jamie, her husband Darren, and their two beautiful children. So much so that we decided to build a gate in that tall wooden fence, through which we've come and gone to enjoy pool time, conversation, and the most incredible cedar plank salmon I've ever tasted. You can attest to that, Marvin. This kindness towards my family and embracing of people from different cultures serves as a wonderful reflection of the values that Marvin and his wife, Felice, have taught their children and their grandchildren. It has been a pleasure to come to know the Girouards, and it is my honor to introduce a man who has built and walked through many gates to cultivate understanding and friendship. Marvin Girouard.
I'm still thinking, though, why he didn't mention that Henry Cisneros went to Texas A&M. He talked about Harvard, and he talked about Washington, George Washington University and MIT, but he didn't mention A&M, and I think that's where Henry got all those great qualities when he was a young man. Anyway, thank you, Paul. I appreciate that. He mentioned that I needed no introduction, but I think everybody that supposedly usually needs no introduction craves it, particularly if you're retired like me. I want to tell you a little story. I have a good friend, Earl Nye, a fellow Aggie also, that some of you may know, who ran TXU for many years. And like me, he's also retired. Recently, I attended a luncheon where Earl was awarded the Lens Award. You might have seen it in the paper, that recognizes the individual whose civic or humanitarian efforts over the last decade have bestowed the greatest benefit to the Dallas area. In his acceptance speech, Earl remarked that he felt that when he retired, he went through a series of who's. And I kind of sat back and I thought, I wonder what he's talking about, because I don't know what that's about after retiring. And then he explained. He said that the first couple of years after retiring, he was still a member of Who's Who. Everybody knew who he was. And then after a couple of more years, it became Who's That? And then after a couple of more years, it became Who Cares? And I can relate to that. But tonight I'm here to introduce someone who really needs no introduction to the people here, is definitely not retired, and cannot relate to the series of who's I just mentioned. Everyone knows who John Avila is, and most importantly, they also know how much he does for our community. Tonight, we're very pleased to recognize and celebrate the contributions of an individual that embodies the spirit, mission, and true message of the Multicultural Alliance. I've known John since we both arrived in Fort Worth some 30 years ago. We share a commitment to our country, having both served in the military. We were neighbors in Park Hill for years, colleagues, and we worked together on many projects to make our city a better place to live. We share lots of Fort Worth connections that strengthen relationships and build community. John was actually one of the contractors who helped build the Pier 1 building, now known by some people as the Chesapeake building, but to me it'll always be the Pier 1 building. And sometimes people talk about relationships being strained when working together on huge multi-million-dollar construction projects, but I can tell you that my relationship with John only grew stronger during and after the construction of our building. John and his people at Byrne could not have been more professional and did an outstanding job for us, and for that I personally thank you, John. We are fortunate that John Avila, as a locally and national recognized leader, invests his time and resources in our local community. Tonight, we are privileged to honor a great man and a great American. John is a member of a generation of Americans who responded to the call of duty, and like me, is a Vietnam War veteran. He continued to serve in the Texas Army National Guard and retired with the rank of Brigadier General. He's a man who redefines community service. He's also a man with a vision of a better place, a place where people serve one another, a place where people care about all their neighbors, not just those who look or act the same as he does. But more importantly, John acts on his vision, all the while pulling and guiding others along with him. John joins a stellar group of past honorees, some of those mentioned tonight, but it's my honor and privilege to present the 2012 Multicultural Alliance Award, annual award, to my friend and colleague, John Avila. Please welcome John.
First, thank you, Marvin, for those kind words. What many of you probably know is that when Marvin retired, he decided he would not be in the public eye, like you just mentioned, and we had, in truth, become dear friends in building this building and before, and so when I was asked if I would be the honoree and who would be my dinner chair, I immediately thought of Marvin, knowing that he hadn't been in public and asked him if he would chair. And this is his first public outing since his retirement, and certainly, hopefully not his last. My many thanks to Henry Cisneros for giving of his time to travel to Fort Worth to serve as our featured speaker for the 61st Multicultural Awards dinner. I am most humbled to be the recipient of this recognition by MCA. Through the years, there have been so many distinguished honorees that to be counted amongst them is indeed an honor for me. The board on which I serve is made up of 33 incredible, dedicated, and civic-minded people who live the mission of the Multicultural Alliance, and all are as much deserving of this award or recognition as I. I embrace this organization because its membership and those it serves are drawn from a vital and multicultural, multi-ethnic population here in Fort Worth, where we relish and celebrate our differences. No one faith, race, or specific ethnic group can prevail in a country that has for centuries welcomed all people. The program participants of the Multicultural Alliance come from every walk of life and demonstrate by daily example that diversity and justice can prevail to create positive change. I was born in San Antonio, attending elementary school in the late 50s and high school in the early 60s. Raised in a middle-class Hispanic family, we were members of a Catholic parish, and that parish was predominantly German, Czech, Polish, Bohemian. There were very few Mexicans in the neighborhood at that time. What a fortunate atmosphere and environment for me to have the experience of rich cultures and practices that my many friends shared with me at that time. I remember my first junior-senior prom at a time when I had to deal with other people's prejudices, particularly my date's father. He did not want her going with a Hispanic, me. My best friend, who was an Anglo, had a similar challenge with his date's Hispanic father. He didn't want his daughter dating an Anglo. So, as innovative young people looking for a way to work around people's prejudices, we picked each other's dates up and then dropped off the respective ethnic group when we were complete. As a Hispanic, assimilated into an Anglo culture, I heard many derogatory comments about Hispanics on the west side of the San Antonio barrio. Oftentimes, I felt myself alienated from my own ethnicity, not Hispanic enough for my own people, and sometimes not Anglo enough for where I lived. Graduating early, because the nuns were such great teachers, I joined the Army at a very early age. It was during the Vietnam War that one quickly learns that there cannot be prejudice and bias amongst soldiers. I do remember the drill sergeant at basic training screaming in my ear, "There is no color in the Army. We're all green. Now get on the bus. Dark green in the back, light green in the front." When one is in combat, you develop a connection that lasts a lifetime. You realize how crucial it is to treat one another with respect and dignity. You do not see people as stereotypes. You learn one another's stories, and you see each other as persons, as the individuals they are, with all their experience, backgrounds, and identities. I've served with foreign armies in my active career, both with South Korea and as an advisor, as Marvin mentioned, in my last 6 months in Vietnam, with 300 ARVN soldiers and 3 Americans, and myself, the ranking American, at age 23 or so. I've been at their wakes with a sweet sense of incense burning as we prepared to bury the fallen. So I know their face, I know their cultures, and it's something that made a marked impression upon me. All of my life experience have made an invaluable impression upon me and fueled my passion to champion inclusion and diversity. This commitment has been such a part of my life that doing what I do and focus on the elimination of bias and bigotry has become second nature. I encourage all of you to join me. I am privileged to be in such good company tonight and accept this honor with humility and gratitude on behalf of my many colleagues who have done so much as well. There can be no place in our lives for disrespect and incivility. I want to thank everyone for showing their support for me, and as importantly, if not, for the mission of MCA tonight and being here this evening. I want to acknowledge my darling wife, Jane, and our adult children, Paul and his wife, Heather, Matthew and his wife, Kamala, my daughter, Janine, and her husband, Jeff. Jane, not only in our parenting partnership, but in our community, Jane lives this mission as well, and I can assure you she has been the course corrector of my life throughout our marriage, and she is the mutual recipient of this award as well. I will close by offering thanks to my family, my friends, and colleagues this evening, and I would challenge all of you to make these significant social changes. It takes planning, it takes preparation, it takes dedication, it takes giving of our time. Yes, it takes some funding. It takes all of us to make a difference. Thank you and good night.